Namaskar. Welcome to another edition of Navimash podcast. So today's podcast will be a bilingual podcast. हम हिंदी और अंग्रेजी दोनों का इस्तेमाल करेंगे. तो feel free to listen and ask question in both the languages. तो सर हिंदी अंग्रेजी दोनों का इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. मैं भी थोड़ा इस्तेमाल करूंगा. Primarily, I will be using English and sir will be using Hindi. But his Hindi is very good. Mine is not. Uh,
Yeah,
so, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Sriram Singh for being a YouTube member. Okay. Your support is critical for us to do the work that we do. So, keep supporting us and other audience also who are watching us. Do support us, and we are going to bring you more great content and more social changing content, socially relevant content to all of you. So, thank you, Sriramji, again. We'll get back to Ajay sir. So, Ajay sir,
for
now
sure.
we are at the precipice of a great event that will be being organized in IIT Mandi. So,
Yes.
please give us an overview what Kullhad Festival is, what is the philosophy, inspiration behind this, and how it's taking shape.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for hosting this because this has been, a long association for us. You've been one of the first few that got me on podcast for the books, and you've been, actively supporting the whole the journey, so to say. So this is very closely linked to the books, the time books itself. A lot of people don't really understand that, and I think rightfully so. Whenever something new, unprecedented is beginning or is being launched, there's a huge philosophy that goes behind it. That's the reason why we're doing it differently. I mean, though, it's not something like fashion. You're wearing a blue shirt today and red shirt tomorrow. It's not as shallow as that. This is something much deeper, and it's related to time. Like you have the book displayed as well. So fundamentally, the way time is observed in India is much, much more complex than it is observed linearly everywhere else. And that also drives the way we observe our festivals, the way the customs are observed, the way the economy is structured, and every resulting aspect of the civilization. This is what made India what India is. This is what Dharma is driven by. And the biggest effort over here was to showcase that and not just fall in line with, this is sort of a lit fest, another lit fest, or another just a mela that we're putting together. So the biggest idea here is to bring different parts together. Like we're talking about engineers, scientists, technologists, but usually what happens in IITs or any of the premier colleges is that, for example, in Mandi, it's in Himachal Pradesh. Uh, Kids come from across the country. Some come from outside the country as well, from across the world. And they are, of course, they're very smart. So they've got through an entrance exam, which is very competitive. Um, but then when you ask them about the surroundings where they are, so for example, in Mandi, if you just, it's a scenic campus. So it's, a blessing to be there, really. It's Devbhumi. Mandi is itself very historic. But then when you ask the kids, about the villages around or Mandi itself, they really don't know much. Or the crops that are growing there, they don't know much. The kind of industries that are there, they have no idea. So we are talking about Viksit Bharat, and you're not familiar with the things that are around you. And this is not just the case with Mandi. I've been to so many colleges over the past decade or more. For example, to Vellore Institute of Technology, VIT, which is in Tamil Nadu, or many other places. There, in fact, you'd find that the kids are prohibited from going to the villages around, and that always confused me. Why is this even a thing? Why are the villages out of bounds for the students when they have come to the same country? That really drove me nuts, and I kept asking questions. Nobody had any answers. They're like, no, it's just not done. I mean, it's dangerous for the kids. Why is it dangerous for the kids? It's your country, it's your village, it's your institute. It should be something that should be allowed, because you can't talk about holistic development uh, purely based on a consumerist model of the economy. Okay, so this is as far as the festival, where it's being structured. Now coming to the philosophical aspect of it. Over the past few decades, we've seen the way economies have grown are purely marketing focused. You're not really going as much about the product innovation. It's primarily driven by the amount of marketing that you're doing, and this is primarily driven by Henry Ford's statement that says you can have any color car you want as long as it is black. So the idea was to increase productivity in a factory, not necessarily where the raw materials are coming from. And the idea was to increase sales because, even for example, in the car industry, the longest process is about painting. So at that time, he thought, coloring a car would take you a much longer time. Why waste that much of time? Instead, just develop standard black cars and sell that to everyone. Even today, when we think we have a choice, we actually don't have a choice, because I had this nice visual that I'd shown in my one of my talks, that the number of cars, the kind of colors that you have, if you wanted, let's say, a red car, you'd have to pay a premium for it. I mean, God forbid, if you wanted something like pink or maroon or whatnot, then you'd have to pay a premium, and to not only to the manufacturer but also to um, uh, the road for road taxes. You'd have to pay something extra, and so that sort of mirrors across the industries. When you start looking at the products, you're primarily driving the economy through marketing driven sales, and not as much of importance is given to production driven economies. So again, continuing with this thought, I give this example a lot. The total number of varieties of rice in India till about 70 years ago used to be about 200,000 number of varieties of rice. I come from a place called Uttarakhand, Dehradun, which was not a capital at that time. A small city, we used to, even when the train rolled into the city, you could smell the fragrance of basmati rice from quite before Dehradun itself. But now it's all gone. The concrete jungles, IT parks. The total number of varieties of rice that have it's come down to now in India is about 1,700. So from 200,000, from 2 lakh varieties, it's come to 1,700. That's the kind of change that I'm talking about across all the um, food grains, across the farming. And this is not something that has happened today. This is something that the British sort of started. They planted forcefully things like lantana, congress grass, eucalyptus trees, pine trees. These trees and plants literally kill the vegetation. So they've rendered 40 to 50% of the land in India unarable. They dry up the soil, they dry up the land. All these studies are available. Everyone knows we used to have about 7, 8 eucalyptus trees in our home. And the moment we realized, we of course cut them down. But this is more than 2 decades ago. But nobody's doing that now. If you just travel from Uttarakhand to Himachal, you'd see millions of eucalyptus trees across the road, along the road. And this is forests, eucalyptus forests. Then when you're complaining about shortage of water, the water levels dropping, but this is one of the primary causes. Nobody's addressing that. You're constantly abusing this guy who's possibly running the tap for like 5 seconds more. So you're not addressing the right causes. Now all of these things put together, they culminate at the economic point where you're talking about the markets, the products. You constantly hear things like women empowerment. When you're trying to do women empowerment, what you're really trying to do is buy some product from a village woman or somebody who's poor, who's producing some kind of a handicraft product, or developed with handlooms, and not necessarily creating the economic value that they need. But you call that empowerment, you put it under CSR category, you almost make it look like charity when it shouldn't be. What it should be about is value creation. So if you genuinely promote the product because it's coming from the local areas, then it creates economic value, and it comes back to people who have not had those products. So one of the primary focuses, I'm just giving you the background right now. Now, one of the primary focuses of the Kullhad Economy Festival is to bring together these kind of producers locally wherever the festival is happening. The philosophy behind this is, if it's in Mandi, then the products that are taken are from the local areas around Mandi, around Himachal. so to promote the value creation. Yeah, that's the logo. So value creation is promoted from there itself. Um, the products, be it in handicraft, be it in crops, be it in whatever, then blend it with the technology, engineering, AI aspects of it to bring the whole piece together. That's not something that we've seen. I've been to many, many conferences, even World Economic Forum, United Nations, whatnot. You'd find conferences, people are talking about farmers or crops and fertilizers, and there are no farmers whatsoever. You'd have something to create agriculture, and you don't have any representation from that community itself. So the moment you start to question that, is just sort of brushed aside. That's a big piece that was missing that we thought of bringing together in this particular festival. So this festival has students from across the country in this particular campus. If it happens in Tamil Nadu, it'll be students in IIT Tamil Nadu, Madras. Then bring together the local people, the artisans, the farmers, the handicraft people over here as well. Then you bring in the technologists. So the primary innovation that we've seen in the past 2 decades is in technology. I would simplify it to just say that it's been primarily in logistics. Okay, be it Amazon, be it Zomato, be it Blinkit, they're fundamentally logistics innovations. You're not really talking about the product itself. You're just talking about delivering it faster. But where is the product being created? How is it being created? Is there any innovation going on over there? That's really not being talked about. The primary concerns that we have around health, around the fitness of the product is completely set aside. So everybody is focused on, let's say, bringing a meal, and that by default becomes the McDonald's Happy Meal. But what if I were to bring in sattu to somebody? Is that sattu vendor even available? Is there another dish that they could have looked at, and is that being explored? Nobody's talked about that. So this is the unique aspect of this festival, which brings in these different stakeholders: the engineers, scientists, technologists, farmers, handicraft, handlooms. The state has different arts, crafts, different food items. The first time I got to Mandi last year, I had not even had some of those. I hadn't even heard of those products before. Like, for example, there is akhrot ki chutney that is made. If you go to Tamil Nadu, if you go to south of India, then you invariably have the coconut chutney, and that all of us are familiar with it. But this is a state which is next to, which is very close to Uttarakhand, but I had not experienced it. Now, that's one. Siddu is another dish that is made. It's like a momo, but it's very different. And there's many, many other things that actually can be explored. So fundamentally what it does is it triggers this, sparks this change. Students have come from across the country. The local producers come together. They start to look at these products and producing those products and start to create value over here, right? This is sort of a spark. Now, lots of conversations will take place over here in the next 3 days. The 3 days that, so second is a Chandi Homa. Third is the preparations. Fourth and fifth is the actual festival. 4th and 5th of October is actually Saturday and Sunday. Typically, what we've looked at is that we'd pick the Saturday before Diwali. So if, let's say, Diwali is falling on a Sunday, not the Saturday before that, but the Saturday a week before that. That way, the festive spirit is already there. People are already in the mood. The weather is extremely good. People are wanting to hang out. There's lots of festivals going on. But this festival gives a unique opportunity to have people explore these things about Mandi, about Himachal, which they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. Okay. The fact that people like us are coming together now, this literally sparks off different areas of economic activity across the country, because there's a lot of excitement. A lot of people have been contacting me to take it to their colleges. And of course, that's the idea. So the model is clear. It starts off from the time books, which you have displayed. That is made into a subject. It's a 3-credit course, 42 hours, currently being taught in IIT Mandi. It's been taught in IIMs as well. It's been taught in several other colleges. But it starts here. It's a 3-credit course, 42 hours. Huge. Like it's a almost a movement, because the students themselves are so excited. It's literally being driven by the students right now. Okay. I'm sort of sitting here I'm of course guiding them, but it's really being driven by the students. They've planned everything. They've got things out. The first semester we launched it, we had 90 students enrolled in the course in Kullhad Economy. This semester we have 200 students and we have 250 volunteers. So you literally got like a village, like 450 people sort of working towards this. So the excitement is contagious. When you start to look at them, when you start to interact with these the youth, then you realize that half the time you're blaming the youth. The youth today is like this, the youth today is like that. And I think that's been a perpetual problem every generation. I like to move away from it. They are not the problem. The youth is not the problem. We are the problem. We'd like to, bring them, tell them. I don't even like to use the word educate. I like to use the word curiosity. The subject itself is about critical thinking. Unless you induce curiosity in the kids, in the youth, they're not going to be thinking critically. And so you induce a curiosity, then you give them the ability to think critically, give them the tools, then they start to explore. So that's broadly, I know I've gone a little too long, but that's the broad sort of overview. It's a huge sort of horizon, but this is where we have started, hopefully, and we'll see you soon there as well. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I will be there also. It's been a pleasure and fortunate that you have invited me to there, because I don't think many people who not be there able to actually experience that starry nights or the markets that we will have, the talks we will have. It's something which actually more satisfying for the soul rather than for the body itself.
Absolutely, it is.
So
So
that's something which is very important.
yeah,
So,
one
sir,
of the
one
things,
more thing. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead, go ahead. Then I'll put one more
one of
point. You
the
can go
things
ahead.
that we're doing here is we've
Hmm.
consciously asked the people to dress up in traditional Himachali attire. So that's for the people who are there. Anybody, especially women who are coming from different states. So, for example, if somebody's coming from Gujarat, then they are, requested to wear a Gujarati style sari. Somebody coming from Bengal would be sort of requested to wear a Bengali style sari. That way, it gives women, of course, another reason to dress up, show off. It's festive season. We're expecting it to be a colorful collage of different parts that come together, but primarily showcasing Himachal over here. The food stalls and the handicraft, all the local stalls are one big part. There are other stalls that are expected to be there as well. There are technology showcases, there are AI showcases. So we've got somebody like Kavan Ganapati who's um, working on conscious AI. So he's going to be talking about certain things. We've got Siddhas, Jyotishacharyas, Ayurvedacharyas coming from across the country. So a lot of people are excited about that as well. There's one case study, I'm sure you've read this in book One of Time. I've
Yeah, yeah.
described one case study where 5 years I suffered and then I was cured by Ayurvedacharya in about 5 minutes for 5 rupees. People got curious, so we got these Ayurvedacharyas who are going to be there as well. Okay, there are technologists, of course. There are AI experts, conscious AI, something like Kavan is working on. There's this person called Abhigya Anand, who's
Yes,
a child prodigy, right? So he's coming. He's excited. You must have seen the video he shared of being a part of the Kullhad Economy Festival. There's another big thing that's happening is Vivek Agnihotri released his new movie, The Bengal Files. So we'll be showing that as well. That's something that we are, happy to invite the villagers around, the youth to sort of watch it. And then he comes online. We were hoping that he could make it to Mandi, but unfortunately, because of the weather, that's not possible. But he'll be there after. So we have about 7, 8 shows planned, and after at least 2 to 3 shows, he will be there to answer questions. So that should be very, very exciting, and a lot of people are looking forward to that as well.
yes, sir. On that note, I think I have his video. So
Yeah,
let me actually, for
sure,
the
sure,
audience,
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
let it just.
से दो
Yeah,
अग्निहोत्री
I think just hold on. I think there's some technical issue.
की बहुत
no
खुशी है
problem.
कि आईआईटी मंडी में कुल्हड़ इकोनॉमी फेस्टिवल ऑर्गेनाइज किया जा रहा है और मुझे डबल खुशी इस बात की है कि वहाँ पे मेरी फिल्म द बंगाल फाइल्स, जो लोग ये कुल्हड़ फेस्टिवल ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने वहाँ दिखाने का फैसला किया है और बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को और बाकी लोगों को ये फिल्म दिखाई जाएगी। और जब ये फिल्म ख़त्म होगी मैं लाइव आके ऑनलाइन एक क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन करूँगा जिसमें सारे दर्शकों के सवालों के जवाब दूंगा। मैं कुल्हड़ फेस्टिवल को बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूँ और मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ कि जो लोग वहाँ पे आएँ वो वापस कुछ न कुछ वहाँ से ज्ञान, खुशी, कुछ ऐसे पल लेके जाएं जो उनकी ज़िंदगी को और अच्छा बनाए।
So
Fantastic.
this is a message
Yeah.
from Mr. Agnihotri.
Yeah. So yeah, this is really good. So Shefali Vaidya, all of us are familiar with her work. She's also going to be there. Dr. Mala Kapadia is going to be there. She's a very, very active. She used to be a psychologist. Now she's working with in Ayurveda. I met her at Vaidya Grama in Coimbatore. She had invited me for this Ayurveda conference. So we had some very, very interesting conversations. I think the biggest part over here is, as opposed to the conventional sort of lit fest and things that are being organized, and this is just a curiosity piece, the idea was to showcase India in the real way that India is, not the way we'd like it to be. Okay, so I've never really seen, I mean, for example, one of the things that I talk about, anybody who says, well, Jyotisha is astrology, that's a mythical science, or it's pseudoscience. And that really surprises me, because that's the whole foundation. It is not science. Science does not understand time. And I'm a scientist, and that's the 20 years research. It's fundamentally taking a definition of time from Jyotisha. And Jyotisha is the science of time. It's the study of time. So when you start understanding that, I think instead of demonizing things and not talking about things, I think this is the time we need to have dialogues. We need to start talking about things. That's the thing that for the past 20, 30 years, I wish somebody had guided me, instead of just shielding things off. We're not allowed to talk about this. We're not allowed to talk about that. Guys, let's come, sit together, discuss things. If you don't discuss, if you don't understand, you're just going to live your life in darkness. And that's something that makes these kids, the youth, very, very curious. And that's something that we are hoping to spark a lot of debates. Again, very active, healthy debates, because that's India's culture. Shastrartha is one of the biggest things that we've learned about. And of course, needless to say, I'm very, very influenced by Chanakya, Kautilya, Arthashastra. So even Kullhad Economy is fundamentally that. Today's need is that. A lot of people have been thinking that Kullhad is about making kullhads and mud vessels. It's not. It's symbolic. It's sort of metaphorical. एक तरीके से रूपक है, to showcase that this is what we're doing. The biggest challenge that we find today is of people discarding. I mean, when you think a lot and finally want to arrive at one of the biggest problems, it's plastic. Because we've got so much into the consumption mode that we're really just focused on selling and selling and selling. And how do we sell more and have people consume more, that plastic has become an integral part of the system. And the biggest challenge is also plastic. So you find the oceans being polluted, you find the animals dying because of that, cows suffering because of it. Chewing gum is microplastics. That's something that has really taken a totally wrong turn. So I think one of the ways to address it is to find more sustainable ways, nature-friendly ways. In fact, one of the things that people don't realize, the Europeans came to trade for spices. And nobody understands, nobody realizes this. But then I ask a question. If you had an interview or a date and you had bad breath, and you had, let's say, a pawn shop next to you, what would you go and buy? And 90% of the youth, whether you ask this question, would say they'd buy a chewing gum, okay, or a mouth freshener. But the thing is, you got to understand that chewing gum is microplastics. That's one of the biggest causes of cancer. It's not tobacco. The cigarette, it's the chemical in the cigarettes that's and I'm by no way promoting smoking of cigarettes. Absolutely not. I definitely don't want people to smoke. But the thing is, you'd find in the villages, people have tobacco growing in the backyards and they put it in the hookah. And they're like people, 90, 95-year-old women who I've personally seen in Haryana as well, they're smoking. And then you'd wonder, how is it this not? Because the primary cause of cancer is plastic and chemicals. Okay. So when you start to look at this, they are associating pan shop with cigarettes, whereas it's actually not. If you really think of a pan is what? It's elaichi, soft, supari, long, pan ka patta and all that. All of this is the spices that the Europeans came to trade for. If you had bad breath, you should just take a long and chew it, and your bad breath goes away. If you don't believe me, go experiment it yourself. The thing is, these things are right in front of us. We're not suffering from a colonial hangover. We are suffering from a Gandhari complex. We purposely just put this on. We don't want to take it off. So pawn shop is fundamentally a jadi buti shop, and that's something that we are trying to sort of take people off on a different plane. So whenever you hear these things being demonized, we're trying to do this whole education sort of an experiment. It's a controlled experiment for now, but really to showcase the country the way it is, because that's where the economic opportunities lie, right? When people are talking about there's jobs are going to go away, trust me, AI will only take away marketing jobs or clerical, secretarial jobs. It's not going to take away the thinking jobs. It's definitely not taking away the production jobs. If you had unique ways of one example that so one of the things that we make people do, especially the youth when they come in, is we make them go for field trips. And so they go to the fields, they go to the villages, maybe they go to the city, they go to the markets, and they come back and they say, well, the farmer had a lot of monkeys plundering the crops, and so we are trying to find a way for them to sustain living and move away from farming. I said, this is the critical thinking that you need to be thinking. Instead of making them move away, why don't you find a solution to the monkey menace? Okay. And so we have a few solutions which we're experimenting now. That's where I know there's a huge sort of spectrum that I've talked about, but that's the idea. Until we explore that, the problem is not outside of us. The problem is right here with us. When we're driving in traffic and we're complaining about traffic, understand that you're yourself driving a one person in a huge SUV. Traffic is not the problem. You are the traffic. You are the problem. The moment we wake up to that, suddenly that awareness will start changing things. I spent quite some time in Netherlands as well, in Amsterdam. And the biggest thing that I love about the Dutch is everyone over there cycles. The CEO cycles. In fact, the people who drive are actually looked down upon. So, there are things that we can certainly learn from the Europeans, besides a lot of bad things that they've given. But these are the good things that we need to learn. And I think that kind of culture will start. The dialogues, the sparks will happen over here in this festival, because there's talks, there's shows, there's discussions, there's lots and lots of games for kids. So you plan stalls of Chaucer. There's different sort of painting competitions, so kids come and experience that. About 8,000 to 9,000 people are expected to sort of have footfalls over the next 3 days in October. But excited, like you can tell, there's too many things for me to cover everything in one go. But I've just tried to give you an overview of this, what it is about.
Yeah, so people who are watching us, or people may be watching us later when the live stream is over, so the link for the website is there in the description as well, and this is the form. Like, if you still want to go there, visit once or twice, if you have some time, it's a beautiful place. So you will get to see nature, and also you will get to learn about nature and learn about technology, learn about innovation, learn about our own arts and crafts, which needs your help to actually sustain themselves and become and make India Viksit again. So, sir, one more thing I had to discuss with you. Okay.
Yes.
So, when you are talking about, correct, the problem solving or critical thinking mindset. So, generally, correct, in psychology, you have flight or fight. Okay.
Yeah.
Whether you fight or whether you flee. Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of mindset is there. Right. Now, what you are talking about is a kind of not fight, but engage with the problem. Yeah. The mindset is to actually bypass the problem, so that I can do whatever I want to do and go reach office or do shopping. Now, you are talking about engaging with the problem to understand the problem from a perspective, from a proper perspective. Example would be correct. If I want to, I'll give an example, a very good example given by actually Anand, one of our members. Okay, he has told me we don't use ducks, fish, and frogs to handle pests. So what
Yeah.
we have taken a shortcut and use pesticides. And that
Exactly.
pesticide is going to cause soil damage. It is going to cause health hazard because they will go into our food chain. We will consume it, then we will have cancer and other kinds of diseases.
Yeah.
So one, this mindset, how do we make that mindset change happen? That's
Right.
how the engaging has to be happen. So what we are doing in Kullhad Festival is actually do that engagement part,
Exactly.
where we talk about the problem, but we talk about the solution in a proper context. Like you don't have to use pesticides every time to actually
Right.
kill the pests. There are other
Right.
solutions available. So it is about
Right.
appropriate technology, not
Right.
always a very fancy technology that can solve problems.
Right. It is, and that's something that has been needed from very beginning. I remember I used to have these questions about, let's say, weekdays. So I've asked this question in my school, uh, in I think seventh or eighth grade, where I asked the teacher, "Why is this Tuesday?" And she just brushed it aside. She's like, "No, everything is the same. You don't need to bother about it." And my question was, well, if it's all the same, then why aren't we just using numbers to address them? Why do we have different weekday names? I mean, it's been about 25 years of research that I've invested in this, because there has to be a sensible explanation to things which we're doing every day. You're literally just brushing aside. No, this is not important. Don't look at this. That's not important. Don't look at that. All you need to do is get a job. It's not. And this thinking comes from the very European, the by the way, colonization didn't happen out of a lot of knowledge and intelligence. It happened out of ignorance. That I've explained in the books, of course, right? They fundamentally started to think that they had become masters of time and they had the right to do everything that they wanted to. One of the first things that they started was innovated a new style of toilets. So the sitting toilet is fundamentally from the 14th, 15th century when it came about. Okay. And there the whole thinking sort of goes downhill because they started treating soil as dirt. When you start treating soil as dirt, pesticides come from there. The idea that it's just something used for production, otherwise it's complete dirt, production, sort of keep it out, concretization of the soil, killing of the insects, everything started from there. This is what has been growing, and this is what has led to the diseases. But today we have, people like Subhash Palekar. There's an experiment that he did. There was this big a bag of soil, and you'd think that it'd be really heavy, but it was really light. It was like almost a kg, right? And then they treated it with lots of treatment that he talks about. Just look up Subhash Palekar. There's cow dung and there's cow urine, and there's some gur, jaggery, and several other things that they mix. And you treat the soil, and then the soil becomes productive again. A lot of the land has been left unarable. Even in the Vedic village that I'm developing in Uttarakhand, it's taken about 7 to 8 months for us to completely get lantana out. Lantana was planted by Lady Lantana, who, they apparently, I don't know what they were thinking. Eventually, I think they just wanted to wipe out the civilization. They didn't come here to colonize. They basically came here to loot and completely wipe out, because that's the thinking when you start to retrospectively project. And I've explained this in detail. So that soil itself took about 6 months to clear the lantana. From that point, then you have to reculture the soil to start growing the kind of herbs that were growing there before. And so we've taken about 2 to 3 years, and we got to a point where we started planting. I've planted about 6 to 7,000 trees over the past 2 years. So, and that movement is still going on. I feel really sad that in Dehradun itself, about 70,000 trees have been cut because they wanted to construct 5-star hotels. There was a time that Dehradun's population was only about 70, 80,000. Today it's about, I think, bursting with 14, 15 lakh people. Then you're complaining about climate change. I mean, we are the problem. Why are you cutting the trees? You need to be planting more trees. There's no dearth of land. Find a clean place of land, start planting trees, nurture those trees. So a lot of those things that I think will need active dialogue, not just brushing things aside. And this is not scientific thinking. Well, it's not. We need to start exploring things in a way that they were not, and especially because this is detrimental even to the West, right? It's not that we are just completely secluded from it. We are all a part of it. We're all in the same place, and all of us become a part of the problem. the moment we start to address the problems the way the problems are, and not like, well, we don't talk about this, we don't talk about that, then it becomes a bigger problem than it could have been before. So I think that thing that you're talking about, the discussions, analyzing problem, understanding exactly where it's coming from, I think it's very important. And that's why I've written the books on time, because time itself, the definition is only in the Vedas. It is not anywhere else. Science doesn't define time. Bible doesn't define time. Quran does not define time. All the research that I've done 20, 25 years, there is no place that time is defined. It's only in the Vedas. The moment you realize that, and this is going to take some time to understand, to digest it, it's not something frivolous. Like, what is time? Well, it's 5 o'clock. It's not. It's something much, much deeper. How do you get the measurement of time? That's something very important. And I think that's where the dialogues, the ability to sit and discuss as humanly as possible comes in. And I think as Indians, as Hindus, we've been very, very open to dialogues. That's what makes us also vulnerable, but that's also what makes us
evolve. That evolution that takes place, it has to be there.
Exactly, right? So that's what makes us sort of grow as a civilization. When I'm talking about that today, I don't think there is any other place which is civilization has evolved the way India has anywhere else compared to the world.
Yes, so correct. We had Vedas, then we had Upanishads, then we had Puranas, then you had Mahabharata, Ramayana. So it's all part of the evolution. The basic teachings remain same, but the way they are being taught, as per according to the time, that changes. That is how we have evolved to actually absorb good things and also some bad things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one more thing before, one more thing. Then I think we can wind up the session itself. So let me, for the audience, to where is it? Yeah, actually, I wanted to talk about one specific thing. That is, when we are talking about a civil society, correct? So generally today, people are too much dependent on somebody doing something for themselves. Like say, sarkar karegi, hum kya kare? Correct.
Exactly.
It's a government job, it's not my job.
Yeah. The benefits mindset. So hum to yehi karenge bas, right?
Okay. I am here to actually seek my rights, but I am not going to fulfill my responsibilities. That's a mindset which has been grown over. Correct. The city, the traffic, the roads, everything, it's government's problem.
Right.
Okay. I am paying money, taxes, and then I should not do anything else.
Most of the people, actually, the ones who are claiming this, are not even paying money taxes. That's the problem. They are only wanting their rights.
Yes, exactly. So how do we change that mindset? Because like these festivals are the things that we have, correct? So the primary motive is to actually engage with the problem, discuss the problem, and people like you and us are go and talk about outside on public, so that more people can get to know about it. Because that perspective change will only happen if they see us and you talking about it. So they can think, okay, I need to do something to fix the problem. Okay, if I'm going to throw a tantrum and do some abuse the politician or others, that is not going to solve the problem of traffic problem. I have to do something about it. It might not be that I'm going to go and break things, but how common people should engage in that way?
See, to start with, I think, and this is what took me this long to launch something like this, is to, we've had these discussions. Not today. We've been having these discussions for decades now. And the biggest problem that I personally felt was the ability to think critically, the ability to ask a question and then get to the bottom of it and understand exactly where it's coming from. We've been literally overfed on this whole, no, this is how it is and this is how it's going to be observed. Well, tell me, why is it this way? Why is it 360 degrees in a circle? Why is it, 4 directions that you observe? Why is it east and west when you have the sun moving almost a degree every day? Right? Why does a day change at midnight? What exactly is happening at midnight that the day has changed? The Vedic way of observing the day is that the day changes at sunrise. There's an event that has happened in nature and that changes the day. That's what I've also tried to explain. The reason why Indian society, especially the Hindu civilization, the Vedic civilization has been resilient is because of this, the ability to adapt to nature. And this is something that has happened because there is genuine answers for curiosity driven questions. People ask a question, you let the whole, you got the shastras, you got all the ability to explore. There has been no cap on imaginative thinking. There's been no cap on asking questions. At least in my house, it was never this way. My father was very supportive, my mother's been very supportive. They've always sort of encouraged us to ask questions. What we'd like to do now is really encourage that across the board. If people can start this, then this is what you start with. You start with a basic question. Why is a particular crop being grown in a particular place? The moment you start standardizing a crop, like for example, I mentioned about rice, that's not just with rice, it's with across the board. It's with wheat, it's with everything else. Why aren't we starting to talk about these diversified crops? Why aren't we starting to talk about diversified products? Why aren't we starting to talk about diversified handicrafts, handlooms? Himachali silk is different from a Odisha silk. So we got different people that we'll talk about. The moment you have these different places coming up, economic opportunities obviously bubble up. Today everybody's been putting this fear in your mind. Oh my God, there are no jobs. I mean, who's going to create the jobs? You got into an IIT because you have brains. Why don't you be the one who creates jobs? And don't be the stupid person creating standardized jobs, because that was not the intent. One of the quotes that I really like from John Lennon, that he says that his teacher asked him in kindergarten, what did he want to be when he grew up? And he said he wanted to be happy. And the teacher said he didn't understand the question. And he replies, well, the teacher didn't understand life. And I think that's precisely where it is. And we talk about this from the word go. So if we can get people start thinking, engage in meaningful discussions, understand the root cause of things, then we can fix the problems. See, we are the ones who've elected the governments. We are the ones who've elected the politicians. I agree the politicians are responsible, but not every politician is corrupt. And I'm not supportive of the politicians. I'm not saying that, this is the way it needs to go. But I'm saying we need to have a logical, meaningful dialogue with people. Once you awaken even that small percentage of the youth, that chain reaction that spreads across will be very meaningful. And this is one part of that trigger that we are looking to do. If we start to awaken the youth, look, all of us want peaceful lives, happy lives. Why aren't we doing this? Why is it that everyone has to break out of this prison, that, the so-called prison that they're saying, what is this azadi? I don't really understand that. What do they want azadi from? Why can't you create it yourself? And that's something that, I think should make sense to a lot of thinking individuals. If you're a thinking individual, if you want to create something meaningful, if you're really looking to create opportunities, then this is the place that you need to be. If not IIT Mandi, it could be IIT Madras. If not IIT Madras, it could be IIM Bangalore. If not IIM Bangalore, it could be BITS Pilani, wherever, right? So we're looking to, of course, grow this. Lots of interest from different colleges across universities across the country. We also got interest from international universities, so we're looking to grow there as well. It's pretty replicable because it's a subject-based critical thinking. Critical thinking sort of grows into this whole idea of Kullhad economy, which is sustainable sort of circular economy. It's not circular, it's not jugaad, it's very different, but that philosophy we can get into later. But that's where we are.
Yeah. So last question before we say goodbye to people. When you're talking about circular economy, we're talking about Kullhad economy itself. So a lot of critics would say, can we do a industrialization process, via these indigenous methods? Like indigenous methods are not scalable. So like if India wants to grow as an economy, this indigenous solutions are not going to help in making Bharat a Viksit Bharat. So that's a criticism we hear from people.
This is exactly the problem that I've talked about. See, when you're talking about industrialization typically what people think is standardization. Standardization will produce mass products, and mass products will be sold to mass people. That will create the economic value. You don't necessarily need to have that standardization. What if you had, instead of 1,700 varieties of rice, if you had 200,000 varieties of rice, the production is still happening. The product is still being sold, right? The product is still being bought. The economic value is still being created. That's what India was the richest nation for. There's this graph that I've given in book 2. If you just carefully study it, for thousands of years, for millennia together, India was the richest nation. It was because production was given more importance. The moment you move into a production-driven economy, then you're not really concentrating wealth to a certain individual, right? These are propaganda that is created. Economic value is created because of production, not because of the amount of sales that you're doing in one factory. And that's the idea behind marketing-driven to distributed production. That distributed production can be, you're producing 1 million units over here, but you could be, is it better to have, two Ambanis in a country, or is it better to have 50 millionaires or 100 millionaires in this same country, or maybe 10,000 millionaires? I think the second is much better because they will create value more. It is the same, that sprinkle effect of water. You could have a hose and you water the whole field, or you have sprinklers, and drip irrigation is that. Once you get to that point, you realize that industrialization is going to be a part of the distributed production, not apart from it. And that distributed production, when I'm talking about, I'm actually completely pro technology, pro science. I'm saying we need to find a blend. That's why I said this is not about eliminating this and eliminating that. It's about bringing people together. Can we find solutions together? Can farmers and scientists come together? Can engineers and Jyotishacharyas come together? Can technologists and Ayurvedacharyas come together? Is there a way for us to find solutions to problems which will actually not only find the solutions, but also create economic value for different places? If I were to talk about, let's say, even the jadi booties, a lot of the medicines that are creating more problems than solving the diseases or curing the diseases, isn't it better to move to more natural solutions? Somebody had posted this, that McDonald's meal somebody had kept and it's not gone rotten for over a year. If it's not even rotting outside, imagine what's doing to your own system. And these are studies that Americans themselves have done. The obesity has increased by a certain percentage. I forget the numbers now, but that's what needs to be addressed. I don't know why we're not waking up to it. So the idea that production is only done by industrialization in a mass level, I agree, but it can be done at a distributed level as well. Instead of having one massive industry, why can't you have distributed many industries? If you have that, automation is just a part of it, right? Currently, the innovation is not happening in production. Like I said, it is happening mainly in distribution. All of these companies we're talking about, Amazon, Zomato, whichever, they are all logistics companies. We're not really looking at, I'm not saying all these companies are bad. I'm just saying we need to start looking at the problem. If you have a problem, you find a solution to that problem. You don't just brush away that problem and find a new solution which is totally going to wipe out all the possible solutions that you could have come up with as well.
Absolutely. So just I'll summarize and just we'll ask people to ask some questions if they have any questions. So when a company says that, okay, our revenue is going down, they will say, okay, go and increase sales. That is the normal solution, how to increase sales. We are not talking about how to. So correct, the problem that you identified, that if a company needs to grow its revenue, they will ask its salespeople to go and sell more.
Yeah.
But that is the wrong, maybe a partial problem identification. The problem is that you are not having enough good products, innovative products, new products which people want to buy. So you just want to push people through marketing.
Right.
So the problem identification is become a problem. Right. Yeah, sales, you need sales, but you need to look at the economy itself, that okay, do you have enough good products, innovative products, new products people want to buy? That is not been invested upon. We are only investing in marketing and sales to grow the numbers by any means possible, and that is inherently unsustainable. So that's why after 200 years of capitalism, they are saying we need sustainable development, not we are.
So you look at so many, Colgate, for example, when they came in, they demonized salt, koila, haldi, they demonized everything. Finally, in 2014, they launched Colgate Ved Shakti, okay, which has close, which has long, which has all these things. Same thing with, I think, the brand that sells cornflakes. They came in, Kellogg. Said, in 1993, they said, we'll change breakfast habits of Indians. In 93, they would have burnt millions of dollars in marketing. In 2020, they ended up launching Kellogg Upama. See, the thing with the economy, especially India, is time tested. A lot of things that we think, we are questioning the the old traditions, but we've come back to it. Time now is to wake up and say, look, guys, we've tested everything, it's wrong. Let's just work on this, and that is where I think we're missing out. Instead of complaining about lack of jobs, I think we need to start creating more opportunities. The next few trillionaires or $1 trillion companies will come out of India because of these distributed systems. The idea is to solve these problems, and I think there are solutions that are just waiting to be uncovered. It's not that it's not there, it's just that a lot of things are changing, and we're not averse to science, averse to technology, averse to AI. I think we need to include those and start making newer solutions.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. So let me just show you one thing before we say goodbye to. I need to go there. Just give me 30 seconds. I need to open up the page. Yeah, I have it now. Okay, so if you can all see, this is the bank account details of the initiative. This is called HARVA Foundation. So Kullhad Festival is being organized by Ajay sir with the help of many people like us and also other people who have sponsored, who have joined. But people who want to contribute and help this event to grow, you can help the foundation by taking the numbers. We have the numbers here, account numbers and details. You can go to the podcast description and you will find these details. You can find more about in the KEF IIT Mandi website, which is there. You can find all the details, and we will also try to bring you a few more programs regarding this in few days or coming weeks, where we will discuss what had really happened. So thank you very much, sir, for your effort, your decade-long effort to actually get this done. So, and the audience, do help us, do help this event grow. Show your support in case you have. You can help financially, or maybe come and join us, or maybe just go tweet something, retweet something. There is a page also available in Instagram to help us whatever way possible to make and realize the dream of Viksit Bharat by helping us and others.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
again, sir, thank you very much for your time and thank you for your efforts. We really all appreciate, and we are also happy that to contribute something, even a small way we can do it. We are very happy to do that, to make sure that your dream and our dreams becomes everybody's dream.
Perfect. Lovely. Thank you so much for hosting this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And we'll see you on first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. Jai Shri Ram. Vande Mataram.
Yeah. Vande Mataram.